Hello, I'm Virginia from Montessori Farm School and Montessori Moxie, and I'm making this video for my community, but I'm going to share it everywhere because it might be helpful for you too. Before the school year ended, we wanted to have a parent ed, we usually do, related to what do you do during the summer, and it was an incredibly busy time with so much going on, and folks couldn't meet in person, so I promised a video, and I'm sorry it's taken this long. Years and years, we have offered lists and ideas and activities, and there are plenty of those out there. So this time, I wanted to kind of make it more of a conversation about what I find is useful to think about in summertime, especially if you're the parent, if there is a parent that can take some time off and be with that child or those kiddos, and you're the main one at home, but in my household, we were both always working. So it was just a big change and it required us all to be flexible. So there are 4 or 5 kind of general principles I'm going to talk about, like routine, independence, balance, boredom, expectations. And then I'm going to give you a couple of more concrete examples of everyday practice in math and language for any of our children. So I hope that you can watch and appreciate this and we can just chat for a few minutes. So the first thing I want to talk about is that routine. Whether you're in a different camp every day or with different caregivers, your child is, routines can be hard to maintain in the summer. So I just suggest that you boil it down to what can we keep the same in these shifting sands? Maybe it's a breakfast routine that is always the same, or the same wake up routine in the morning, and then dinner at least a couple of times a week can be have the same kind of hallmarks and traditions. You're eating at the same place and you're singing the same song, and you all go through the same decompression where you talk about your day, whatever it may be. Keep that the same, and if possible, bedtime. Not only times for waking and times for going to bed, but just the routines around them. If they stay as close to normal as possible, it's going to give your child an anchor and a predictability. And that's so comforting when you don't know, maybe we're going to stay at Aunt Sally's for 2 weeks, or maybe we're going to a different camp experience this week with new counselors and new children. Those are things that they can depend on and feel comforted by, and also kind of give them points in the day where they know what's next. And this can not just be times of day, but you could have a routine to your week that every Thursday after dinner, the whole family goes to the library and then gets a popsicle. And that's something to look forward to and give them just, a little bit more feeling of control and steadiness when things could get rocky. So the next thing I want to talk about is independence. You've chosen Montessori for your child to learn, and this system is about supporting their budding independence at every chance that we get, right? Not every extra help is a hindrance, as Montessori would tell us. So keep that up, right? They've worked hard, if they've been with us all year at school, to take care of their own things. So continue that at home. It's harder, right? You might have just one child or 2 children, and you're automatically going to respond to them pretty quickly if you can. Whereas at school, we might not be immediately available. There are more children, there are fewer adults, and we're also trained to get them to figure it out when possible, and to lean into these problems. So I'm going to ask you to be slightly less helpful and help them in that way. So encourage them and let them know that you believe they can do that. You can give them some extra time to get dressed. You can give them some extra time to clean up. You could give them a lesson on how they might clean up something, because that is often what we'll go back to, right, in our classroom. But continue to help them and scaffold them just enough to do things more on their own and to figure things out and to be a little bit okay with some discomfort when things don't go easily at first. And we noticed this even in the few weeks that we're off at school. When I saw some of my friends come back for camp, they seemed to lean on us a little bit more initially. I don't want to do this. I can't do this. And we reminded them that of course they could, and it was okay. And we do hard things. So that's important. You also want to provide overall balance for yourself and for your children. So you want to have as much balance between structured time and unstructured time as possible within the realms of your world. So there should be times where you can get those swimming lessons in and teach them this new skill and have them in this new class. But also, there should be a lot of unstructured time if you can allow it. That helps them become the agents of their own creativity and their own drive to learn new things. And it just really builds that internal, intrinsic motivation when they have these open-ended times. Gen Xers, I see it all the time on my social media because that's my generation. We're always joking around about how we'd basically be feral and just sat outdoors and had to handle ourselves. And that's not practical or even desirable anymore. But there is some merit in not being entertained all the time by your parent, not having a structured activity all the time. So add some balance if you can. Let's talk about clear expectations and responsibilities. So if you started out this summer and you just kind of rolled into it and all of a sudden it's July 4th and you've thought, you know, we don't really have a routine. We don't really have expectations for the kiddos. Sit down with your parenting partner if you have one and establish what you would like those days to look like and what parts the children can play in that. We want them to feel valued and to know that they are an integral part of the family and that what they do and what they contribute is worthy. Because we're raising a generation that, of course, we want to be seen. They want to be seen and heard and listened to and respected. But also, we don't want them to feel a sense of entitlement or as if everything's going to be done for them. So give them that chance to practice now. Maybe you decide they're responsible for plant care and bringing down dirty laundry and emptying the dishwasher, whatever it may be. They're capable of so much when given the time and attention to set that up. And it does take longer than to do it yourself. And it's not done the same way. But if you can decide on even 3 things that are their daily and or weekly responsibilities, I think you're going to be amazed. And I think that you're going to get greater cooperation. And you can also ask them, what would you want to be in charge of this summer? So the last thing I want to touch on before we get into some more concrete suggestions is rest and boredom. Make sure that you are also communicating that rest is important to us all and that it's okay to be bored sometimes. And that really is a fertile ground for creativity. So that kind of loops back to that balance between structured and unstructured. So let's talk about learning opportunities because so many of you want to say, well, how can I help them? Trust me, when we're talking about, phonics skills or subtraction, we've got plenty of materials and time to do that. What I would love is for you to just use everyday moments, teachable moments that are relevant in that natural setting, right? So real time, real life learning is what's going to be easiest and resonate and just really stick with them. So when we're talking about everyday math, that can be road signs on a trip or looking for exit signs. That could be counting the cows in the field. That could be counting the red cars. So when we talk about counting, some of them can do really great rote counting, but maybe they're working on the higher numbers or teens. You can do looking at prices and finding numbers there and comparing numbers there. When you're cooking, of course, we want them in there for practical life, and there's a lot that they can do, but especially measuring is great to talk about fractions and what is a half cup and what is a quarter cup and what is a tablespoon and a teaspoon. And time and money are lessons that can come up naturally in every single day. How many minutes are in an hour when you're talking about how soon you'll leave or how soon you'll get there, and how many hours are in a day? And these questions will come up, especially if you have some of that open time. And money and how many quarters are in a dollar and how many pennies are in a dollar as well. So there's so much in Montessori that is base 10, but money and time are not always base 10. So those are sort of irregular math lessons, and gosh, measuring, if only we'd gone with the metric system, right? So they require some reinforcement, and what better place than in real life? And the second category of sort of real life experiences we want to talk about is language. And the best things I think you can do for that is to have a reading hour every day or a reading half hour. And maybe that's a time when all the media goes off in your household and special music plays. Maybe you've got a great jazz album that you always play for reading hour. I used to like to set it up as a cafe in my household. And so I think my kids called it I don't know, Shark and Goat. There were two animals cafe. And we would put out a tray of healthy snacks because we usually did this after their swimming lessons or swim team practice. So they were starving, and they could eat and munch and either journal or read. And reading includes graphic novels and magazines and just looking through books, picture books and chapter books. And everybody is working on their own thing, but we're all together. It was really darling time. And we should reinstate that. They're a little older. They're not always here, but I could have my own reading hour and you can come over. Environment labels are also great. So I'll try to send a set to everybody, but you can have a basket of labels that say table and rug and pencil and pen and plants and chair. And you'll want to have some that are phonetic and some that are not, and they can puzzle them out with you, or you could simply read them and they could label them. You could have permanent ones on certain things, and you can also create them in Spanish too, or another language that you're working on, which is great. Enlist them to help you write lists. You're going to the food store, and they can make picture lists, or they could just try to sound it out, or you could spell it for them if they like the accurate spelling, and have them help you with reading the list in the store and reading the signs in the store. And any kind of art or fine motor is great language work. So that's a lot of ideas. Kind of a long video. If you're still with me, thanks so much for watching. I think about you all during the summer. I miss the kids. I look forward to getting to know all these new children that are so fabulous. And you can write me here or email me, whether you're a family of ours or not, and ask more questions or contribute to the discussion. I'd love that. Thanks so much. Bye for now.